day I heard about Charmaine's remains being found, it was from the television, and they showed a picture of Charmaine. And I remember I was staring at the television because I remembered Charmaine, but I had no photographs of my sister. And the photo they showed of Charmaine, she was a little toddler, and she was so pretty. She was beautiful. I remember just looking, staring, and it was when each victim was found, it started to become, I was just cutting off. I just couldn't believe what was happening. I remember looking and thinking, this is something that you hear about or read in America. You don't normally hear from a little town. And seeing pictures of my dad on the telly, I thought, that's not my dad. That's not happening. My dad's a good person. And I asked the police if I could actually go to see the house where Charmaine was, because I wanted to put some flowers down. So the police checked that it was clear, and they took me down in the evening. I was told that I couldn't go to any other part of the house but the part that they found Charmaine. And I remember looking at the house and thinking, it hasn't changed. It still looks the same. And I went round the back and up some steps. And to my right, there was the window that I remember me and Charmaine huddling down together, thinking that the witches were coming after us. And I walked in to what is now a kitchen. And there was a big hole on the floor. And I remember looking down, and there was earth. A friend, a very good friend, went with me, and he had to steady me because my legs just buckled. Just couldn't. I was there. I was witnessing something, but I couldn't really see it. With my mother and sister Charmaine, I wanted them to be together, so I asked permission if I could have them cremated placed in the same coffin. To start with, it was a lot of red tape I came up against because of Charmaine being a certain age, because the law says that a baby can be put to rest with their mother. But because of the events of the circumstances of how they came to die, I was actually granted permission to have them placed in the same coffin. I told my father that I was dealing with my sister's funeral, and my father, he became very angry and annoyed with me, and he said to me that Charmaine was his daughter, his child, and that he wanted to deal with that. And the thing that people don't realise the most is the fact that he's more of a victim than anybody. And I remember looking at my dad thinking, how can you say that? And I sat there and I told my dad that I was going to have my sister and my mother cremated together. And Dad asked me what would I do with the remains. And I said, I'm thinking of taking them back home. He said, no, he said, I want them to be laid in much marble. It was a family plot. And then Dad said to me that he wanted me to promise to him that when I died, I would be buried with him because he wouldn't want to be on his own. He was frightened of being on his own. And I couldn't do that. I couldn't make that promise to Dad. A lot of the times when I visited my dad, he'd be crying. And I remember Dad said the one time that he'd come home from work and there was Heather, May and Stephen out in the back garden and they were digging. And that he said that Rosemary had told them to because she wanted a fish pond. And they'd put, I think it was blue polythene or something in the hole. And that he said a few days later the hole was covered in. And he said that he mentioned to Rose, oh, what's that? And she said, oh, I changed my mind. You know, I'm not going to have one. And he said that little did May, Stephen and Heather realise Heather was digging her own grave. And I just sat there in total astonishment. I mean, I wanted to, let me out. I can't cope with this. Please let me out. I had to sit there. And he'd say that Heather had been cut in half and that she'd been put in one of the large dustbins to be disposed of later. My dad asked me the last time he was alive if I would help him and stop making statements and to give him an alibi. And I didn't even think about it. I just turned around and said, no, Dad, I won't. I can't do that. And then my dad said to me, well, think about it. I said, I can't, Dad, and he was crying. And I leant across and I brushed the tears away from his cheek and I said, please don't cry, Dad. And I held his hand and I said, Dad, all that's gone on, I know that you haven't done it all. And he said no, that he hadn't. And I said, well, only he can change things, nobody else can. And he said to me, never mind, sweetheart, he said, I'll get out of here one way or the other. And then he hung himself. And I feel really bad about that. But I couldn't. There's been too many lies.